Hey guys, DMJ here, and just wanted to add a little piece to the beginning of this video. Wanted to cover just a couple little things. We had our first mistake of the season, which again, wasn't a big one. I had read from the wrong chart for Rapture, the wrong part of the chart. And so basically he just loses half of his gold. So I'm going to weave that into the beginning of this video to sort of fix that little inconsistency there. Next, I wanted to say that this video, there's usually 10 games in a campaign for me. This isn't going to count toward the 10 game number. I just wanted to make this its own separate video. So when I record tomorrow's video, all of this stuff isn't at the beginning of it. Tomorrow you can just get right into the game. Even though this is narrative. Also, we got a new trailer for the channel and we got some new intros for the videos, so I hope you guys like that. And yeah, let's get started. Rapture watches as Thunderian vanishes into the depths, and he hurries up, he stumbles a little bit, he falls to the ground, and he pulls himself up and manages to make his way into the darkness. He loses the light of Thunderian's lantern, which sort of sets him into a panic. And after what seems to be an eternity of wandering through twisting caves and tunnels lit by the glow of his new magic shield, he finally spots like this welcoming spot of daylight in the distance ahead of him. He just takes off full speed toward it and falls out of the cave. Along the way, he had been attacked by some of the same things that were attacking Thunderian, so he's got like little bite marks all over him. Thunderian's waiting for him with this look of relief on his face. I mean, they had just lost their companion. It hasn't really set in yet because they're sort of in survival mode to try to get out of this place after this just happened. As you know, he falls out of the cave entrance or exit there into Thunderian's arms. There's like a cling, and Thunderian looks down, and one of his gold pieces hits a rock down below, one of Rapture's, and he points toward Rapture's gold bag, and it must have got ripped along the way. Rapture grabs a hold of the pouch and suddenly realizes that he's lost about half of his gold. As these two make their way back toward the encampment to meet up with Javen, as I said in the other video, they're debating back and forth. It's not an argument, you know, they're just so shocked as to what's happened. And, you know, Thunderian explains to Rapture as well that when Rapture was left behind, they came and got him. So he thinks it's only right and just that they would go back and try to get Lunarius. And just all these thoughts and plans are being exchanged between the two. Back at the encampment, they meet up with Javen and Ripper, which is his dog. That's kind of became his nickname because that's what he is and that's what he does. The three just kind of embrace and finally are able to mourn the death of their friend, you know, over lots of ale, and they just start drinking. As you can see there, you can see Thunderian's got the pitcher while his companions just have like cups of it. But this scenario here is just a little bit farther into the future, after their night of drinking. It's too early the next morning, but still they're gathered at this meeting with Tavis, who's in the blue right here. And Agatha is here, she's across the table. And there's a group of holy women at the table as well, who the group has no idea who they are. Tavis introduces these women as members of the Order of Merciful Sisters of Sigmar. Javen sort of leans over to his left, where Agatha is seated at the table, and he says, "Why don't you take Ripper for a walk? He needs to run a little bit." And Agatha and jumps down with a smile and goes over and calls Ripper, and these two leave. And that's basically to be able to get some adult time here to talk things out. And she's kind of too young to understand what's going on and is probably wondering, did you find my father? Did you find anything? And everybody's sort of in a panic at this point. The sisters overall are pretty silent and grim almost. And Tavis begins to explain that their prophetess has seen the events surrounding Lunarius, and that Javen has an item that could possibly change the past and the future. Javen is wearing a crystal-like stone that is mounted in a black iron brooch. It radiates a pale early morning light, and that brooch contains a dawn stone. Now again, I'm never going to cheat with the game, but I will use all my resources and try to make things happen if possible, because I'm a part of this group. And Javen has this dawn stone. May be used to restore one warrior to full wounds immediately, even if dead. Now, this is the old description of the Dawnstone. Little Monk changed the description from even if dead to even if it's been a few turns. This is the original description. And so in this particular case, I'm going to use the original description, making this situation possible. That it just says even if they're dead. So in this case, I believe the stone would work. One of the sisters points over to the brooch that Javen is wearing and says, with the stone, we can bring him back to life. If we have the body. We can recover the body, but a favor to Sigmar is required. They look down here toward the end of the table, and there's a young girl, maybe 19 or 20 years old. She sits at the end of the table with a pretty stern face. This is Tabitha Soulsworn. She must be escorted into the city to the convent. Her business is her own. Just at that moment, Thunderian shaking his head. There's like movement of the table where his hands are down on it, and he stands up shaking his head like he's about to reject the idea of taking this young girl into there. Before he can get a word out, the sister interrupts him. No, Thunderian, you are not responsible for her fate. Thunderian looks over at Javen in rapture, just like eyes wide, like how did she know what I was gonna say? Tabitha stands up at the end of the table with a smirk and produces a Warhammer seemingly out of nowhere. She lifts it toward the sky, and momentarily it crackles with lightning, and she looks over toward the group, and her eyes crackle with lightning as well. Do we have an accord? Thunderian, Rapture, and Javen give a head nod. They basically just want their friend back. People kind of know about the Sisters of Sigmar, that they can be pretty badass, and she can probably handle her own and would be a nice little addition to the group, just for some extra help while Lunarius is gone. And there's no guarantee that this is going to work anyway. So what do they have to lose? Tavis interjects into the conversation that, okay, well, if we have an agreement, then he is going to send a crew back up into the mountain there, and they are going to construct a bridge that will not fall. So everyone is basically in agreement. Within the next day, the bridge will be built, and the group will escort Tabitha. They're not responsible for her. Whatever happens, happens. And it's sort of like a side mission, right? So now they have to figure out what's going on with the king, and they have this side quest of basically just getting her through the mountain to the city and to the convent. They don't know what's going on in the city. The details we shall find out in the future, but that is the mission. Everyone's in accord or agreement. Javen looks towards the sisters and says, how the hell are you gonna get his body out of there? The sister says, ease your mind, Javen Runehouse. You do your part and we will do ours. And I will see you guys in the next video.